So hello there. I checked out in the last few days my video diaries from 2024, and I was quite surprised to see that they had been watched by quite a few people. So um, the the doing these diaries was just in that in itself. It was a video diary, just to log my what I'd been getting up to at various points in the last few years, and it just so happened last year it was the end of the year, and so the I think in the last diary there were three of them that I made. I said that I had planned one of my intentions in 2025 was to go to America and to go to a dude ranch, and that happened. That all came to pass. I booked a holiday in Montana in August of this year, and started out by going to Helena. Stayed there a couple of weeks, and I toured and hiked about there, went out on a bike, and it was very hot and very beautiful there. And then I moved down after 2 weeks to Bozeman, and I went to a rodeo, which was also part of the big plan. And that turned out to be even better than I expected it. Having watched Yellowstone, the TV series about cow ranches and wranglers, working cowboys. I was very interested to see the various different shows that they would put on as part of that. The cutting and sitting on bulls and bucking horses and the barrel racers and um, the lasso and bringing down the cattle and stuff like that. It was fascinating, and it was very worth the $20 I paid. And so, just look at the time. Yeah, that was fab. And then I went from Bozeman, which is quite a sort of, it tends to be labelled as a fake cowboy town. And that's where people go to pretend they're cowboys, and there was lots of nights out there. But I found interesting stuff. I went off on a tour of Yellowstone National Park, and for a day before I hit the Dude Ranch, and that was spectacular. The part I went to, which was near Bozeman, was the sort of Geezer part where all the hot springs are, and there weren't so many herds of buffaloes or anything like that, which was probably what I wanted to see, but they're further north at that point in the year. Go off mating or whatever it is they do. And so, yeah, that was worth doing it. And then I went off down to the horse ranch and 9 1/4 circle, and it was just spectacular. It was still surrounded by mountains, but it was just a beautiful valley with quite a high altitude. And I had a little log cabin there, and then we went out riding up in the hills and mountains round about every day, and you could see spectacular scenes, beautiful blue skies all the while, and just the whole sort of American experience, the food and meeting up with other people, make new friends. So that was really, it was quite the highlight of my 2025. The only sort of downside of it was that 2 days before I was due to go and catch the plane, I tripped and I broke my leg. And so I ended up in an American hospital for 2.5 weeks, and arrived home with a piece of American steel in my leg and some pins, because I fractured the tibia in my left leg. So I'm still really recovering from that. Just the muscles take a while to get them to behave properly. But hopefully, according to the surgeons over there, I would have a complete and full recovery. So I'm not doing any dancing at the minute, obviously, no horse riding, which for me is a bit of a loss, but hopefully next year I'll be back on the horse. And well, you do what you do, don't you? I think on these other videos, last Christmas at the spa hotel, I was talking about Mr. Pie, and I hadn't quite got to the end of the book, but I did do that. And he, at the end, Mr. Pie, being chased by a bunch of embittered aficionados of his philosophy in life, and they all felt very let down when he went from good to evil. And so they chased him, and he went off down to the point of the island on this horse and cart. And suddenly his huge wings spread out, and he just flew off the island to escape. And that was it. There was no more of Mr. Pie. I don't know what he decided in his future life. Maybe he soared off into the heavens. So that was Mr. Pie. And so this year I've been reading as one does, and probably did more so because I was anchored down in Anchorage for the past 3.5 months, and did a lot of reading, and so read some Mick Herron books, the slow horses, and I'm sort of ongoing reading those because he seems quite prolific, that man. He writes a lot of books, so I'm just sort of reading my way through them. And then on a recommendation from some people in the States, they were talking about Richard Dawkins, The Selfish Gene. So I've been sort of kind of like forcing myself to read these because they're not easy reading. They are really for people who are studying, I would imagine. They're academic books, and but they're very interesting. His theory is based on natural selection, but he thinks it's rather than the complete form of the species, whatever it is, human or monkey or lion or whatever. It's the individual genes, the chromosomes in people, which make the selections, and he has this idea about the genes contained within the chromosomes, which do all the directing inside your body from when you're a baby right until you become older. And he reckons it's the genes themselves which are selfish and promote natural selection by crossover when people breed and things like that. So I'm not quite, I don't really believe that, to be honest, because I think genes are an illusion, just like most things. All these academic theories, I think, yeah, they can, you can go as far into them as you want, but I think that there is another truth, and that it just reminds me of when I was younger. Maybe when I finished studying, and then you get to that stage where you go from being innocent, it was the end of the innocence, and then you have to kind of rapidly grow up and be self-sufficient. And it was that point, you come to a sort of crossroads and say, well, do you want to go down the road of fame and fortune, or the other road, which is discovery, or how to find in love, I suppose. And I mean that in its philosophical term, not sort of lovey-dovey romantic stuff. I mean, the whole essence of that. And I think I chose the discovery, the Odyssey road, and that is, it's hard to go down that way, to do things that way, because you're really not in charge anymore. So you're not controlling anything. It's you have to follow your star, whatever it wants you to do. And so that was what I did, and I have been doing it ever since. And that has led me to all sorts of adventure, and a lot of it involving music, because I believe in rock and roll, and I'm greatly influenced by people like David Bowie, Leonard Cohen, and I suppose the moment that I discovered that life was not as I had been brought up to believe, it was like that moment in a song by David Bowie. There was a crack in the sky and a hand reaching down to me. All my nightmares came today, and it looks like they're here to stay. So I think David Bowie was a very interesting man. He chose, he understood the way things worked, really. He was different from everyone else. And yeah, so that was it. David Bowie. There's all sorts of great rock and roll people over the decades that I've heard being interviewed and talking. Then their songs, they feel in the songs, if they've got anything at all, you'll pick up on the vibe of that, that Odyssey thing, like 2001, A Space Odyssey, going off in search of, reality. But, there's always good times in amongst all that crazy stuff, which I like. So, yeah, I've seen a few gigs this year. Saw John Lydon, PIL, and he's excellent. He's getting on now. I think he's kind of settled down a bit, and he's very watchable. He's just a crazy person, and he's just out there on his own, isn't he? And I can't actually remember. I've seen quite a lot of bands this year. That anaesthetic that I got on the stage really wiped my memory out. So a few weeks ago, I saw Then Jericho last year, and I went to see them again up in the O2, and they were very entertaining, although I couldn't jig about much because I was in crutches. There's lots of things that I could talk about, but I think I'm going to wrap this up now. My New Year's resolutions for next year, obviously, to get my leg working properly and get back to doing all the things that I like to do and love to do. And I think it's just going to take time for that to happen. And anything else 2026 throws up. I think it's really up to yourself how far you go. I think there was a woman once told me years ago that the problem with handicapped people is that many of them know they're handicapped and are, if they're mentally handicapped, they know that, and they can see everybody else round about them performing much better than them. And the thing for people that are trying to help them, their care people or educators, is to get them how to cope with failure. And to be honest, I think we're all handicapped. People have their belief system is based on the norm, isn't it? And being born and then getting married, having kids, maybe not, and then dying, And I think that it's not just a case of trying to find money and be comfortable and secure, because it absolutely does not exist. There's no such thing. That's all an illusion. There is no guarantees. And I think, I would say I've probably failed more than I've lost over the years. I'm not, getting depressed about it, but I know when I've failed, whereas a lot of people don't. They don't realise they're failing. Whereas I'm fully aware of it, and I just think, oh, well, I'll go round again and see if I can get it right next time. But there's just like light years of potential there. If you can only just crack it. It's hard. Yeah, you've got to be really brave to go into the unknown to get anything at all, really. And so I was going to finish there, and I'll hopefully next year, when my leg is better or whatever, I have anything exciting to report when I get back on my horse, I might make another one of these diaries because I think they're useful, even for myself to keep tabs on where I am. Okay then, thank you for listening if MD is listening.